Hello everyone, Marjorie Broman here, and we have the amazing Tijani, our rentalpreneur, in the house. Thank you so much for coming today.
That's good. I'm here.
And today we're gonna talk about the house rules. So I heard a quote from Brené Brown that said, "Generosity cannot exist without boundaries." And I feel like that's why it is really important to have rules in any house. So
Yeah.
first of all, how do you decide how many rules you want to have in your house? Because I feel like it's so easy as a beginner to just write the whole Old Testament of rules, and it can be overwhelming for your future guests. And maybe they are like, man, this person has way too many rules. I cannot even do anything. And it's way too complicated for me to read. I don't even understand these rules. So how do you decide which rules you want to put in your house?
Put the rules that matter and put all of them. I am a true believer in very, very stern house rules. I'm a true believer in house rules that scare them a little bit, right? So, one of the things that we give all of our students is our house rule template. And we give it to them. We have everything that we tend to put in our house rules in there, and they always add some or they'll remove some, whatever the case may be, because it may not apply to their unit. I put stuff about like the patio, balcony, like some stuff are kind of custom to that particular property. And so if that doesn't apply to, they'll like edit it or whatnot. And that's always like their base. That's where they'll start from, and then they'll edit it from there. And what's also interesting is these house rules, when it comes to, how much should you put in there, put all of them in, like put the ones that matter for your listing. You want to really have your bases covered. You know what I'm saying? Like our house rules, we're not mean-spirited. You can tell that we're not mean-spirited in there. We're not, we're not cussing at you or anything like that. But at the end of the day, yeah, it says do not. And some things are capitalized, right? Some things are capitalized, and then we also put the consequence of breaking it, which is money. And a lot of people don't like.
That's a really good way.
Yeah, people don't like losing money. So, and we have kind of stern house rules. Some people might, somebody has a issue with the house rules, then I don't want you standing on my property anyway. To be quite honest with you, it's actually one of the ways that you can kind of weed out people in a way.
You can filter them out as well.
Yeah, filter them out, because it doesn't matter how many house rules you have. It doesn't matter how strict it is. The reality is, if they're going to be good to your property, they won't care what's on your house rules. Look at it, because they have good intentions anyway. They're going to follow. They're just good people, so they don't care what's in your house rules. If they have a question, they might say, "Oh, I wonder if I can do this," and they'll check. Say, "Oh, okay, we can do it," or they're not tripping on, "Oh, no, we can't do that," and they won't do it. Right? So it's usually people that have issues with the house rules. They usually have bad intentions for your properties.
Gotcha. And when it sounds to me that when it comes to rules, you just want to over communicate at that point. You want to make sure that you give them quite a bit of rules that they can apply to the house in any emergency circumstance that they want to try something crazy and random in the apartment. They know exactly from the rules that that's something that they shouldn't be doing, or maybe they are allowed to do with certain permissions or something like that. So when it comes to rules, I know that some hosts, they tailor the rules to their target audience, and some of them they tailor it to the property, what they want to have in the property. So are you a combination of both, would you say?
The property, because that's what I'm protecting. I'm protecting the property. The rules apply to protect the property, because that's my investment. That's my moneymaker. And the rules protect the property in a way that protect you as well, right? And they protect our neighbors, right? Because we have rules protecting our neighbors. And understand, I actually show my house rules to my neighbors, because the properties I own, even though I own them, they can't stop me from doing short-term rentals, but I want to be cool with them. I build relationships with my neighbors. My neighbors know that my properties are short-term rentals, and they rent it on AirBNB, and they're all rented on different sites. In fact, my neighbors have my number. They can reach out to me if something happens or they see something, and so they'll reach out to me. And a lot of my neighbors, they don't even have, I give them my assistant's number, my general manager's number, and my personal cell.
Oh, wow.
I give them my personal cell as well, because I want them to feel connected. I don't want them to feel like I just don't care. I'm just passing them off. I'm just gonna have anybody there, whatever. I said, nah, like reach me, talk to me directly. So we do that. We do that, and we protect the neighbors. We say, hey, quiet hours is at 10 o'clock. We have quiet hours at 10. You know what I'm saying? You can't be coming in here throwing parties, nah.
Oh, no.
None of that. You know what I'm saying? So even like we have some listings that have really, really nice yards. And sometimes people will, like large groups of people will book it. And sometimes they want to have like a family over at the backyard. They might have barbecue. They might bring a bouncy house. Like we've had people do that. And it's always a great experience for them. But I tell them like, hey, at 10 o'clock, it needs to be like, you need to bring all that down at 10. Because we need to protect our neighbors. And so we have all kind of rules that protect the property, that protect the neighbors, that protect the guests too, when you kind of indirectly though, kind of when you think about it, so yeah.
And at the same time, I feel like it also gives a really good point of view for the neighbors to see you as a business owner, because they would see you as someone that is not just messing up with their amazing environment that they have for living in, but actually as someone that is bringing value into the neighborhood that they're at.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and that's one of the things. You don't want to be looked at as someone who is like harming the neighborhood, or they feel like you're a negative impact in the neighborhood because you can't control your guests. So definitely, we keep our neighbors involved in the process.
And if anything, who knows, maybe they could even bring you some new leads for your business. Because let's
Absolutely.
say that they have that one family member that needs an Airbnb. They're like, my neighbor actually does that. You want to come stay here?
Oh, that's happened.
So, yeah. Oh,
That's
wow.
happened. Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's happened. Not that often,
Tell us
but it's
about
happened.
that.
Yeah, you know, and it's one of those things to where I got a call from one of my neighbors, and I'm like, oh, what now?
Oh, no. That's no
I'm
bueno.
like, what's going on, right? No bueno. So I'm like, hey, yo, what's going on? And so they said, oh, well, TJ, hey, I got this family friend. I know it's kind of last minute. Is your unit available? They're coming in this weekend.
Wow.
I know this, and that. It's happened a few times. Actually, half of the time I couldn't accommodate them because it was just too short notice and the place was already booked then. But there were other times where we were, and it worked out really, really well, 100%.
Because they already knew you, they trusted you, and yeah.
So you know what's interesting, and I'm gonna tell you, I don't think I've ever said this, but one of the strategies that we do in our business is that's why we love multifamilies. We like multiple units in one location. That's why I started transition from single family houses to small multifamilies. Now we're doing like medium multifamilies for our boutique hotels. But we love our even small multifamilies, our 2 to 4 units, because we have, say for our duplexes, for example, we have 3 listings instead of 2. We have a listing for the first unit, we have a listing for the second unit, then we have a listing for the entire building. Right, and so that way they can rent the entire building, and we love those reservations because we're able to actually charge more than they would if they were to book it individually. And that was kind of what gave me the idea to do that when I, like back in 2018, when I bought my first duplex. So that's what kind of gave me the idea, was because, man, I had my property and my neighbor like booked it, and they loved the fact that they were like next to each other. I said, oh, I'm gonna rent the duplex together, and man, one of the best decisions ever.
And that's
so,
why you started scaling
yeah.
up and getting your hotel, your
Exactly,
boutique hotel.
exactly. Now a lot of people do it. A lot of people actually rent out multiple units in one listing. They do it all the time.
It's just that proximity, though, because I feel like it comes down to Airbnb and short-term rentals being the home far from home that people are looking for. And sometimes
yeah.
when they're coming with like a huge group, maybe they don't all fit on the same unit, but having a unit right next door that they know that the rest of their family can fit in as well, that makes a huge value to that area.
Absolutely.
So now, what are some of the ways that you use, though, to remind all of these house rules to your guests? Because I bet that some of them, they start at the very beginning of the month, and they are going to take 3 or 4 weeks, and they're going to stay 3 or 4 weeks, let's say, on the same place. How do you make sure that they still remember those rules throughout the process? Do you give them a book or something?
Well, we give them a book. No.
Do you give them a little like pamphlet or something like
No, not at all, not at all. I mean, you know, they have the guidebook, which is digital though. That's on their phone. And as soon as they open the guidebook, matter of fact, our guidebooks, as soon as you open it, you have to put the information in because we want your data. We want your name and email address.
Oh, nice.
So we're gonna get the data. And you also have to say, here's the house rules. I agree. I agree to the house rules. So you agreed with it on the OTA. You also agree with it in the guidebook. And it's in the guidebook. Every time you open the guidebook, it's right there. So that's kind of one way to kind of reinforce it. But we don't want to like call our guests and be like, hey, just want to make sure you remember the guy. You don't want to hit your guest up on that stuff. But, you know, as soon as you reiterate it, let them approve it. Let them agree to it before they even book it. Let them agree to it when the day they book it, let them agree to it. And that's honestly probably the extent of it, because if you're trying to put it in their face anytime after that, then it might be a turnoff. But yeah.
Do you have any signs at the properties that you've got on some instructions on how to use certain things if it's too complicated? Would you recommend people to have those signs?
Yeah, absolutely. That's all in the guidebook. That's all in the guidebook. And so especially certain things, and that's one thing that we had to do because our guidebook wasn't just like, oh, we just created this guidebook. It was like a moving piece. It was like a moving piece because
Pretty detailed then.
yeah, it's pretty detailed because a lot of times we'll host, we started hosting, and we saw that, oh, the guests, like, they kind of struggle with this thing with the coffee maker, or the guests, like, man, this, something that whatever it is, they kind of struggle with. So we're figuring it out. And so we have instructions on how to operate the thermostat. We have put a picture, the remotes we use are the Roku remotes. They're like kid proof. Like, it's super big buttons on it. Like, it's really hard to mess up the remote, but we still put a full picture of the remote. And then we have the buttons, like an arrow to all the buttons and what it does. As simple as our remote is, we still have a diagram to make it even more simpler.
Just in case.
You know what I'm saying? And because guess what? We got one call for the remote back in 2019.
Oh, wow.
I got one call for somebody asking me, where's the volume button?
No way.
And it was right there on the side of the remote, but you don't see it on the face. As soon as I said, oh, it's on the side, I said, oh, I'm such an idiot. I'm so sorry for bothering you. It's right there. And so I said, okay, cool. So guess what? Put it in the guidebook.
Put it on the guidebook.
Then I put the whole diagram. The volume button is right here. So if somebody's messed it up, somebody didn't see it, I guarantee it's going to come up again in the future. It may take a whole year. It may take, because it's simple to see, but somebody's going to miss it again. So I want to nip that in the bud right away. So I added it to the guidebook. So that guidebook is always kind of moving. You'll kind of update as you get certain experiences, and you can add videos. You can put videos on there. You know what I mean? I have instructional videos on how to open up, like, the pack and play, right? I show them picture diagram. So what I do is the pack and play comes with an instruction book. So I'll scan the instructions that has the pictures and I'll add it to the guidebook.
Wow,
and then
that's
I'll
a really
do
good one.
a video of me unpacking it, right? Opening it up and then packing it back up. Small, short video, like 30-second video. And I added that to the guidebook as well. So anytime they want to know, I tell them, we reiterate, like, everything that you need to know is in the guidebook. If there's something that you need to know that's not in the guidebook, let us know ASAP and we'll let you know. And a lot of times when that happens, say, hey, how do you do this? Oh, that's not in the guidebook. Well, guess what we're doing?
Let's add it.
We add it to the guidebook. You know what I'm saying? So that guidebook is always a moving target. And but it's an important piece to our business because the guests like it and it gives them a lot of information. But yeah, that's one of the ways that we kind of enforce the house rules a little bit. But other than that, we don't really bother them.
That's right. And I feel like at the same time, since it's kind of like a living document, you can keep editing
Yeah.
it and adding more stuff to it to make sure that the stay for your guests is the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
It got me thinking that sometimes with Airbnb, you get tourists that could be from another country.
Absolutely.
And you never know. Maybe they never saw that one specific type of chair that you've got in your apartment or your property for Airbnb, and they just show up there, and if they don't have any instructions, they're going to be like, how do we even sit on this thing?
Yeah.
You know? So it is pretty, like, inclusive in a point that it allows anyone that decides to book your listing and follow the rules, of course, be able to enjoy their visit while they're there.
Absolutely.
Do you have any experiences, though, before you had your book?
The guidebook?
Yeah, your guidebook, that made you think, man, I need a guidebook now. or did you always have this guidebook?
No, I didn't always have it. I think I brought the guidebook in after unit number 3.
Oh, wow.
It was pretty early on, very early on. I wouldn't say I've had any, like, crazy experiences, but I just knew that I needed one because it was just another way to reinforce the instructions and give recommendations. And when I was, that was kind of around the time I started really getting educated in the business. And so I learned that, hey, it'd be a good idea to show recommendations, things to do and places to eat and stuff like that. And so I said, okay, well, I probably could need a guidebook that's going to help them with my reviews. And sure enough, it did. Oh, thanks for that recommendation. Love the guidebook. And you'll see that in the reviews as well, yeah.
And who was the one who gave you that idea, if you don't mind me asking?
It was a video that I saw. It was a video that I saw because all I was doing, there wasn't a lot of people teaching this business back then. And so I started teaching. Now, there are people like Sean Rockagy, somebody that was teaching this business and having YouTube videos. Richard Furtag was somebody who was always posting stuff since I started this business. Jay Massey had content as well on YouTube. Those are probably three people that I know were posting some kind of content about short-term rentals, even back in 2017 when this business was still kind of new. And so I would watch all kind of videos. I would O'Brien Page. He had stuff that he was posting, stuff like that as well. So yeah. So watching different videos and just learning. And then sometimes it's not usually from like an instructor. You'll just see like somebody just post a video about their experience on
And
Airbnb.
it just gives you that idea.
It just gives me an idea.
That's right, because
So,
inspiration can come from anywhere.
exactly. So I'll just
Now-
watch somebody. Yeah, that's really it.
Now, when it comes to the different types of guests that you've had, have you ever had any international guests staying at your properties? And if
Oh,
so,
yeah.
how did you deal with the language barrier between you two?
Oh yeah, for sure. Now the good thing about it is these OTAs have like a translation feature in them. So like on Airbnb, for example, if somebody is from China or wherever they book from, and if they write it in their language, you can say, hey, translate, and it'll translate it for you in the messaging to what they say. And then when you respond, it'll do the same thing on their end. So the OTAs do help with the kind of the language barrier, because as they should, which is really smart piece of technology to have in your platform, because if you want people from all over the world booking, then it's probably good to kind of address the language barrier issue. If they book direct with you, then that's just something else that you'll just have to figure out. But we haven't had a lot of international direct bookings. All of our bookings has been domestic. I'm looking forward to that point, though. You know what I mean?
That'll be fun, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Let's see what changes you end up making on your guidebook.
Exactly, right? And so it's always interesting, though, because we love our international guests. And by the way, most of our international guests come from Booking.com. Most of them come from Booking.com. So yeah.
Were they English speakers when they came to your?
Sometimes. Some speak English, some don't. Some speak English a little bit, but we're always figuring it out. And they book, and when they book it, they're able to kind of look at everything in their language. The check-in instructions clear and like all
What
that
about
stuff.
the guidebook? Because I feel like the guidebook
Oh,
would
yeah,
be
the
in
guidebook-
English. How did they deal with
Yeah, the
like-
guidebook has multiple languages too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's
it
cool.
has multiple languages as well. And there are different guidebooks out there. Some have different features. I don't know what other guidebook features have, but the one I use definitely does.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, TJ. And thank you to our audience. Now you know how to tailor your apartment so that way the rules are truly protecting your property and your short-term rental investments. Thank you so much again, TJ. And we're going to see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.
Peace.